Today I think I'm going to be taking a look at the Emax Babyhawk 2 HD. It's come in this packing. Now in the spec list it says that you get a spare set of the 3.5 inch scimitar props. Well, let's see what we've got here. This is two spares that I've got here, and those were just on the package like that. Now, I don't know if this is something that they are doing or if it's something that they are sending to reviewers. You see, 3.5 inches is a new size, and for now, these scimitar props are the only 3.5 inch prop. And I think this has been a problem, so I'm not getting this guy the same time as all of the other reviewers. I've been sent this the same time you could buy it. And I believe there's been a problem getting these props, but anyways, we've got two spare sets there, so perhaps they are sending that with the package. Now let me know if you got one of these recently, if you got two spares outside of the box. But the box, it has come sealed, and on the rear of the box we have got a warning, and then all of the Emax social media things. The Emax Babyhawk 2 HD, and as far as I'm aware you can only get this HD version, which doesn't mean that it's got like a hybrid camera on it. It means that you have to have at least the DJI digital HD FPV goggles and then your own separate transmitter to bind to this. And I think there's going to be a lot of Emax followers that might be upset by this, because up till now, all of the Emax models have been analog, and I would say a good 60 to 70% of hobbyists are flying analog. So this cuts them out of the picture altogether. So hopefully one day we will see an analog version. If not, at least you can buy the frame separately and the motors, in fact everything, so you could make your own one up. But you know, I would much prefer it if Emax came up with their own one that you could buy. Let's take a look in the box. This is first time opening it. We have got some foam on there, we've got some Emax stuff, so stickers, we've got the manual by a QR code, and what have we got here? It's just the, is that the Vista, the Cadex Vista manual? I think it is. So we've got the quad in here, we've got to put the props on. Anything else? Oh, it's quite minimalistic in here for Emax. So we've got some screws there. And this is just one set of the scimitar props in here. So you get 1, 2, 3. So 3 sets in this one. Emax usually go for a props out configuration. Of course, you can look in Beta Flight to see what direction they're going, but I'm just going to stick the props on for now so that it looks like a quadcopter. This is just the life of a YouTuber. When I go into Beta Flight later, I'll be taking the props off anyways. Before I stick the props on, let's see if a 4-inch biblade will fit. See if we've got the clearance. Oh, clearance there. Yeah. Let's try the back, because I think this is where it's going to struggle. Okay, yeah. I did wonder whether they made this guy for these blades originally, but it's actually the Vista that's getting in the way. I think though, if the Vista wasn't there, these props would clear if you're looking at doing your own build, but not with the Vista in place. A tip for putting on these propellers to this type of motor where we've got these screw threads is not to put them on the shaft first, because these are tight fitting. And quite often you'll put the screws through here and you either won't find the thread, you'll be trying to line it up with your eyes, or you'll find one thread or start screwing and it ends up screwing into the actual metal and not finding a thread, which is no good because you'll mess up all of your motor. So you put the screws in first so that they poke out of the other side like that, and then put the center shaft in, and you don't even need to look. What you can do is push the prop down and you can twist them into a thread like that, and that always ensures that the screw will just go directly in and it won't bust up your motor. Okay, so let's see what I think about this guy. I'll start off with the frame. Now it actually looks quite weak and brittle, but it's not. Just look how thick this carbon plate here is. So it's a unibody on the bottom plate, so if anything does break, then it's an entire plate to be replaced, including the electronics. But that is fine because I don't think it's going to break very easily. What I think we might get is some prop wash from it. I've never been a fan of these multiple struts for arms. It tends to mess up the airflow. We are a little bit of a bigger prop here, 3.5 inch, but it still might be a problem. So the camera is the Cadex Nebula Pro. It is almost as good as the original DJI camera. It just struggles with the white balance a little bit, especially when it's overcast. The blues and the sort of warmer colors, you can see the white balance flicker between the two, but other than that, it's a good camera. If this is all we had, I'd be fine with that. Don't like how they have mounted it in TPU. However, it seems like it's really stiff TPU. So we'll have to see if I get any jello through there. So we've got the Vista mounted at the back here, and it's actually part of the standoff there, and there's no standoff underneath here. We've got a middle standoff there as well. And you might not be able to see, maybe if I make it look all shiny, we've got a, it's actually, I thought, yeah, is it part of the frame? I think it is. However, it's not very thick, so that's just to really protect this board underneath from water, I would say, more than anything, because I can bend this material here. There's not really much to talk about in terms of electronics with this guy, but let's start with the motors. They are the Emax Eco Budget brand, and they have a stator size of 1404 and they are 3700 kV. Then moving to this all-in-one ESC and flight controller, you can see it easier from the underneath actually. So the ESCs are 25 amp 4-in-1 BL Halley S and not BL Halley 32. And an F4 flight controller. We've got a beefy capacitor in the middle there for any noise. It's 35 volt, 470 microfarads. So as with any Emax model, they tune it themselves, they give it to their pilots, and I imagine that it is going to fly nicely with the recommended battery, which is 850 milliamp hour 4S. If you start messing around with lighter or heavier batteries, or start sticking, I don't know, say a GoPro on there or a naked GoPro, then you'd have to look at changing the tune potentially. However, the Emax pilots, they do stick a tune on there that is kind of changeable to weight slightly, because they know people will mess around with it a little bit, rather than just making it a completely tight tune for this battery. So you might be able to change it up a little bit. But the thing with Emax as well is they tell you not to touch any of their tunes or any of their settings whatsoever. If I'm being picky, then I like how this antenna is mounted. It's really sturdy actually. They have developed a plate for it to sit in. However, it's a little bit low, so if the battery is on top there and you are facing towards yourself, then the signal is getting completely blocked. I'm so used to these long-range models now with these huge antennas which give you amazing reception. That's something that I would change. Also, these wires here that are soldered into the all-in-one board, they're sticking up a little bit. Now, just looks a bit messy, that's all. We've got some of the Emax tape around there, medical tape, whatever you want to call it, to sort of keep them in check, but yeah, they just stick up a little bit there. This is the PNP version, so you get a little connector tucked inside, which you can connect to an S-Bus receiver. However, it's also connected to the S-Bus from the Vista unit, so I can bind my DJI transmitter directly to the Vista and I'll get the same range as the video out of it. So no need for crossfire, no need for extra antennas. I think it's the best way personally. They do a D8 version, just stay away from that because you've got about 80 meters of range with that. I don't know why they've even made that an option, but there you go. So let's get everything bound here. I've got the goggles turned on. I've got my controller turned on. You have to bind the goggles first, otherwise if you bind this first then you'll lose the bind from the controller. A little bit annoying. I've got a cocktail stick here, and on the red button it's just a short press. Get the beep beep beep. Plug the quadcopter in. Wait until the red light goes green on the Vista. There we go. So now press the bind button. Should get a beep beep on there. This is the tricky part. You have to press the record button, this button there, and then the scroller down. And then that goes blue and starts beeping. Then we have to press this button again. There we go. And we are all bound up. Next I'm going to plug the battery in. And again wait for the green light on the Vista to show. I've got a USB-C cable here going into the computer, and this is to see in the DJI Assistant FPV series whether it has already been activated or not. So plug that in there, usually takes a second or so. Okay, it's showing up as air unit light, so it needs to be activated. Start activation. And then what I'm going to do, you won't see this bit, but I usually stick a fan on the thing because it can take a while to download and update. Activating is quick, but then after that it will ask for a survey, and then it'll ask me to upgrade this firmware, and it can get quite hot. And if it keeps resetting, then that's because it is overheating, so you need to get a fan on there. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, and once that's done, just in case it's got your region wrong or you want to unlock it, I'm plugging the quadcopter back in to the computer, and it's brought up this internal drive here. We just do new text document, call it NACO, and go inside and type the number 1. File and save, and that gives you the full power of the Vista. Okay, let's take a look at the setup in Betaflight. Now Emacs say that you're not to touch any of their settings, but you at least need to make sure that you've got the props on the right way around, and to see if your controller is working correctly and mapped correctly. So if I press connect, we're on Betaflight version 4.2.5. It's a fairly recent version. Let's check out the ports tab. So we have got the S-Bus on serial RX on the UART2, and UART1 is for the MSP on the Vista. So no spare UARTs, but that's fine because we don't need any. Obviously you can get a crossfire version of this, so there must be enough pads to do the TX and RX on there. Let's go on to the configuration tab. It is props in, how about that? We have got D-Shot 600, and we have not got RPM filtering. Motor idle at 6 is fine, motor stop off is fine. We've got a board alignment correction in there. Arming set at 80. I would set that at 180. That's a safety feature so that it doesn't arm when you are carrying it, but you should always disconnect the battery when you're carrying it anyways. Then when it's set to 180, that means that if you get stuck in a tree, you can arm it at any angle. So we've got S-Bus here and serial based receiver. That is all fine. We've got some personalization there for potential on-screen display. We've got soft serial enabled there, but nothing in the ports tab. So maybe if you get the Crossfire version, they're using a soft serial for something, but this isn't that version. Telemetry on, air mode permanently on-screen display and dynamic filter. I wouldn't change anything there. We've got RX loss and RX set. For D-shot commands, I would have those on there as well. So save and reboot. Okay, well that's not doing it, so let's try again. Did it save my settings in here? Yes, it did. Right, power and battery. Oh, you shouldn't touch any of this, but 3.3 for the voltage sag. So save that. PID tuning, let's have a look what we've got here. So we've got profile 1, profile 2, and looks like we've got just 2 profiles then. Those are high PIDs, aren't they? 1 and 2. So probably in the manual they have got 2 different PID profiles for doing different things. So just looking at the instructions here, doesn't say to use different PID profiles. In fact, it says we do not suggest you change any of the PID settings. So maybe either one of them isn't in use, or if it detects a different number of cells, it switches to a different PID profile. Let's check out the rate profiles. So that looks like stock to me, stock. Interesting, all stock. Okay, well I'm going to put my own rates in there. So I go 7.5 on the rate and then 16.16 on the Expo. Some people like to look at the filters, so there we go. If you want to see the filters, let's go into the receiver tab, TAER. This needs to be completely different for my DJI transmitter. So that actually is set up for a Tyrannus, but mine is ATER. Just to confuse things, that's because my DJI transmitter is mode 1, so I have to do it in that order. RSSI actually don't need at all because that feeds through to the DJI goggles. RC deadband for my DJI transmitter is a little bit loose around the middle, so I'm going to stick 7 in there. So if I just save that, that should do me. Then let's turn the DJI transmitter on. Oh, that is a bummer. I'm actually not getting any control through Betaflight. So either there is a setting wrong, or it's not actually soldered up to the S-Bus from the Vista. Damn, look at that. S-Bus isn't connected up on the Vista in this one. It's gonna have to come apart. Okay, so it's actually pretty easy to take apart. We've got 2 screws underneath these back 2 standoffs, 1 there and 2 at the front, and this just lifts off like that, leaving these things here. In order to get to the S-Bus wire, I'm going to have to take the antenna off, which it does just slide through here like that. Looks like actually there's some damage to the coax that's gone on there getting it into this slot, which isn't ideal. It's not looking very plug and fly now, is it? I suppose they are hedging their bets that people will want to connect a receiver to there, but I'm not sure what kind of receiver would suit that plug. There's some D8 receivers that would plug straight into. Using a D8 receiver on this is a complete waste. So maybe an XM Plus, but even then you aren't going to get full use of the range of the Vista using an XM Plus. I still can't reach those solder pads very well. I think I'm going to have to take this part off as well. Hopefully it's just a long screw. Yeah, so these things are threaded and it should just come off. I mean, it's a nice design if you are just building it the once. Watch out for these washers here that are on this side of the Vista so that it doesn't come in contact with the carbon plate for the antenna. So time to get soldering up, I suppose. So the quality of the soldering on this board is a little bit messy, even for my standards, because I'm not great at soldering. I've got the S-Bus wire going in here now to the S-Bus wire on the Vista, and also the ground. I've removed the 5 volt from there. I've also added a naked GoPro power connector at the same time in case they ever bring a mount out for it while I've got all of this in bits. Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? Not exactly plug and play for me anyways. Let's go to the modes tab. So arming, I'm just going to go auto on this. So that's AUX 1 for me. I've got the props off here. Remember, so for the modes tab we've got angle and horizon. I'm going to take horizon out and let's just do auto again. So I like angle here, then we're going to go acro over there. Beeper, let's go auto on that one, and I usually have this one for my beeper. Yep, so that's the AUX 2, and they probably got flip over after crash on, which I'm going to get rid of. So that is all of the modes. Let's go into the on-screen display to see what they've got here. So they've just got the average battery cell voltage, which is fine. I'm going to get rid of that because it confuses me, but that is fine because we've got the full battery voltage that comes through to the DJI goggles. You know what? None of this is useful to me, RSSI value, and neither is the craft name. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. Let's see if we've got anything in the video transmitter. No, that is fine because this is the DJI system. That is the long-winded Betaflight setup. Alright, let's go for a quick line of sight flight with this guy. Man, I haven't got that much more sunlight left thanks to all the messing around with the receiver, but here we go. So just to see how much power it's got, line of sight, and how noisy it is, and you know, tell straight away it's very quiet. Oh yes, very quiet indeed. Now I know there's going to be some people who say, why didn't you just leave the props on reversed and change the settings in Betaflight? Well, there'll be some people that'll say, oh, you didn't fly it as it was intended to, if I have any complaints of how it flies, so that's why. Feels like it's got so much oomph. Wow, yeah, plenty of power, really quiet. Oh yeah, really nice for freestyle. Oh yeah, can't hear any flutters or anything like that. Feels really smooth. At a guess, it's designed to fly with this battery and this weight. See if we can get a close up to the camera. Shouldn't get the props in shot with this one. It's another thing I'm looking forward to with it. I mean, it's perfect for this kind of field. You know, it's not a big field, but it's very quiet, feels very safe. We'll have the props out of shot so we can actually use the footage from the vistas, the HD recording, and you know, it'd be a decent recording. Of course, no stabilization or anything like that, which we expect of these days, but back in the days of the Session 5, you know, you get a similar sort of view and shot than you do with this camera. In fact, better dynamic range with this camera than a GoPro for sure. Yeah, flies nice, line of sight. Okay, let's go for an FPV flight with this guy before the sun goes down. Very smooth. Yeah, nice and smooth. Do a bit of a dive. See the colour balance changing. See if we've got any jello. Let's go over this side of the field. Let's point to the sun. A little bit of a wobble, I think, and also it's a little tiny bit of the props in shot actually. It's just a tiny bit. You can only really see it when facing the sun. Maybe it's not. Maybe the props aren't in shot actually. I think it might just be the reflections of the sun. Oh, it flies nice, this does though. It was worth all of the effort. It's so quiet, can't even hear it. It's a calm day today as well. Just stay away from the people just standing in the middle of the field as they do. Got a spotter though, so it is fine. Oh, it flies so nice. Let's see if I can go over here and they're just standing right in the middle where I need to be. Of course they are. Let's get a bit of height on and let's see if we've got any bounce back or anything like that. Oh no, really snappy. Yeah. Flying lovely, this thing. Put maybe a 10-degree camera angle on it. Let's see what voltage we're doing. We've got 15 volts. It seems to hold the voltage quite nicely when just cruising around, which really that's what this thing's for. Let's go up on the throttle. Yeah, it sags into the 13s. Pretty standard these days. Okay, now they have moved. Tend to find that people slow down immensely when you're just standing there, you know, looking like you're trying to summon E.T.'s spaceship. I think we're going to get a decent flight time out of this, and this will be a great candidate as well for one of the long-range Lion batteries, I think. It's a shame the 4-inch bi-blades don't fit. Yeah, I have no complaints with how this thing flies. It is superb. And you know, you can fly it around a small space like this. I've had to stop flying here ever since COVID-19 hit because people working from home, number of dog walkers, the number of people just constantly here. You can't fly anything big anymore. Actually very quiet here, but I've waited maybe an hour and people are still just constantly walking across. They put these lines in here, social distancing lines, look. But what can you do? Look at that 4-minute 20 flight time and still nowhere near the battery being depleted at all. 14.7 volts. That's really good, that is. So this is it. 850 milliamp hour A-line 4S. Yeah, I think, you know, other than the fact that I had to mess around with the receiver, there's not a lot else to complain about. Maybe it'll show you that, you know, things aren't always as straightforward as they seem. That's what, you know, I've been guilty of that in the past because it takes so long to film. It would have been just easy to say, oh, I had to mess around, you know, taking the thing apart. But I think sometimes when you show that, it's a little bit more real. No prop wash at all. Yeah, Emacs are very good at that. Is it the Tiny Hawk Freestyle? I forget the name. Tiny Hawk, Baby Hawk, Nano Hawk. There's so many Hawks. This is the Babyhawk too, right? Yes. But other models with these type of arms, they've done well on before, and you know, not having prop wash and stuff. Okay, we're getting to 14 volts now, so I'll come in for a landing. Look at that. It's gone back up. That's amazing. 6-minute flight time. This is a fairly new battery. It's only had 3 cycles through it. You know, gotta be transparent about that, but it's ready for a landing, I would say. So there you go. That is my review of the Emax Babyhawk 2 HD. I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.